Hello guys, how are you? I hope you're well. I am well. I thank God for this day and this moment. It is a good day that the Lord has given us. I have a wonderful topic today, and this is in line with what could be happening to you. There's some people who are going to be relocated, and this was always in the books for you. It's not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. He planned to relocate you. He planned to do things for you, these things for you, and you'll be surprised that the people who have always been connected to you are also in the same line. This is a prophecy for those who don't even expect it. You'll find that because you have experienced what has happened to somebody else, you are actually, that was actually a window into your future. You were being prepared for the same, and you're going to receive it or come to it. And there are some things that God wants to demystify. We will talk about them. And one of the things that God likes to do after a long period of people having a lot of assumptions about things and a lot of sleepiness, I would say, because people awaken to things that uh, have been a deception for a very long time, is that he demystifies some things that were hidden by the elite. Yeah, there are people who whenever they get a chance, they make something look very unattainable to the common person, and they share it among themselves, among the elite. But after they have said and done and planned around the thing that they got, because they know it is valuable, it is profitable, once they have attained and shared it among the elite, then after some point or after some time, God makes it available to the underdog, to the chosen. Now, why God takes time to do this, and it could be a long time, it could also be generations, yeah? Why God takes time to do this? Thank you for the hearts. Why God takes time to do this is because He is preparing you in a way that you can't learn from the ones who and not to measure mostly on people, but to say that he does this in order to prepare the underdog, who is most often the chosen, who is most often the underdog. Okay, a chosen one doesn't have to be an underdog. You could be a group of chosen people that some look so high and mighty, like they are thriving, but in so many ways they are underdogs, because there are things they will not attain except by the mercies of God. Okay, now the example we see of a chosen people is the Israelites. And when they were chosen, they had to go through a very long process, and this would look like a privileged nation at first, but the only privilege they've ever had is the love of God. Yeah, and because he loves them, he always rescues them. Yeah, because he loves them, he always uses places and things and people to rescue them. He will put people in his charge to take care of his people, to lead his people in and out of places, because the chosen ones, you will notice, especially if you've realized that you have the characteristics, they do not have a home of their own. Never have, never will. Okay, and so God uses this to occupy. He uses them to occupy, to discipline, to send out karma, if you will. Now karma is not a common word in Christianity because it is Hindu, but it defines, the definition of karma is passing out judgment. Okay, so you will notice that as a person who the description of a chosen one is the one that looks like an underdog, right? One that never fits anywhere. No matter, even if people loved this person, they would not be able to keep them. And even if people hated them, they would never be able to put them down. And you will notice that one major thing with the chosen one that they come to only realize later, after they've begged and cried and, beat themselves up, wondering, why am I not like this? Why am I not like such people? Why am I not so privileged? You realize that had you not even been as protected, because you didn't know you were protected, because it never seemed so. You didn't know you were accepted because you always seemed rejected. Had you not been under his cover like you were, do you know what? You would have died. You only notice later that God was fighting for you. It comes as a surprise that for everything that you were doing, God was fighting for you. It is the age of knowledge. People are sharing knowledge all over the world. It's coming as a shock to some people who thought the world is a certain way, and they're realizing it is not. It's actually, people think the same. I always say people are the same. It's just the cultures that differ and the information that you have. A lot of people who have relocated to places like North America have been shocked to realize that people know nothing about other lands, especially Africa. It comes as a shock and as an insult, because you will be treated by how they were taught in class, and you will be shocked only to realize that you did the same to other people. You thought maybe Armenia is a poor land somewhere in Europe, lost and forgotten, only to realize these people have a beautiful culture. They think the same as you, they do the same things. Some are even more advanced, and you're like, lo and behold, there's a whole world I didn't know. So you cannot even afford to condemn. You have to sit down in silence and meditate on the ignorance you always had, yeah? And so part of the journey from where God is taking you from one land to another, essentially, because you cannot claim any land to be yours. Part of the journey is God introducing you to other people, to other nations. You will know them, you will see them. Some you will want to dwell with, others you will hate from the beginning, and you will have a drawn out battle, some for years, and you'll realize, oh, as much as people are people, there are people I'm not supposed to dwell with. There are people I'm not supposed to journey with. Yeah. God is very intentional, but he will cause people to carry others. He will cause people to leave others. It is a job. And if you do it faithfully, if you're a Penina and you do your job so well, so that you will push Hannah into tears and begging and crying, because one thing about the chosen people, they have these tiny hearts and they don't know how to fight for themselves. Most of them are victims, and we say victims in that they cannot fight for themselves, but some are very dignified in that victim position. Listen to me, I'm not saying that they are victim or act as, but you could see somebody just in their power, so admirable, but they really cannot fight for themselves. They really cannot fight back. They really cannot fight you if you are mean to them. It is a kind of a protection, because there's a chosen one who, if they stop to fight you, they would lose what they carry. There's a kind of chosen one who will fight back, will fight you, will do all these mean things, not knowing that they're actually chosen and they have to learn through every blunder. They will make mistakes, they will blunder, they will be doing all sorts of negative things, only to realize that for everything they get punished fast and heavily, so that they will learn. And this one will seem foolish, because they go through everything. They learn only through their own mistakes. They can see other things, they can see people doing things. These things will be imprinted in their hearts. They will observe a lot of things, and even the career that God puts them in or allows them to access will only be teaching to observe people. In some circles, these people have been regarded to have small minds, but it's actually an act of God to put you somewhere where you will only observe the behaviors of people, understand spirits. And because you cannot learn this in class, and these people, in a way, are very spiritual, they only connect spiritually. So whenever they meet with others, they will feel deeply, and they will observe a lot. And you would even think that they are learning all these things that they are learning, and eventually they will deposit all this knowledge somewhere for the sake of others. Okay, so you are very, very chosen, very, very, God is very intentional about where he places you and why. And you will see it when you land in a place. Yeah, and your calling may not be very dignifying, or it may be very dignifying, only for it to be clarified by someone else. The thing about God is that he uses all these examples that we see, just like the body is one, but it has different, we have all these different sections of the body to do different things, but we always, you know, uh, it is one body. What the hands can do, the legs cannot do, and vice versa. But we are one body in Christ. Yeah, we are one body as a chosen. You will be different people will be used to do different things. Yeah, for His glory. Okay, and whatever you find yourself doing is not by might, not by power. Okay, you do not choose. In fact, a lot of chosen people will say, I never bargained for this, I never chose this, but you're right in the middle of it. There's no escaping it. It's like a second skin. Anyway, today's topic, I just wanted to define the chosen one a bit, but today's topic is why God relocates the chosen, okay? And I think I gave out number one. It is because you have no land of your own, okay? So once your purpose is fulfilled in one place, you move on to another, okay? And the place that you're moving to, you could be a pioneer or you could be a follower that has the land prepared for you, but your mission is very different from the pioneers, and you must accomplish that purpose, okay? Failure to accomplish a purpose is just learning the hard way and losing time, losing energy. A lot of people, when you see people doing things in their late ages, in their 50s, in their 60s, that means they may have delayed somewhere. Sometimes it's not by their own doing. Sometimes they're delayed, but when they get to the place, they will be very joyous and very focused, a focus that they didn't have before, because they were always pursuing purpose. When they see it, they will be glad, and they will be this will actually be activated in the place that God relocates them. So it is a must to be relocated. And also in that, during the process of relocation is where you learn a lot of things. I was saying the other day that do not play with your diasporian relatives. If somebody has gone ahead of you, no matter what they look like, no matter what they're doing, God has taught them in the journey. And the thing about knowledge is that it doesn't stay naked. Like, you can't see it, you can't know what somebody knows or what they've endured, but it is such that, especially as a chosen one who has to learn through through everything, like when you the kind of chosen one I've described that learns through their own processes, is that if you play with such a one, you learn the hard way. Yeah, because some chosen ones, I mean, it's their path, it's their journey, but they only learn by making mistakes. And that is quite painful for most, yeah? Is quite painful for that particular person, okay? And it's a lot of them, even the ones who are in very dignified position, they have to learn that, oh my God, there are still this kind of people who don't learn this way, and you still must honor them, because you realize there's truth in everybody. There's truth in the people you disregard. You may hear something from somebody today and be like, these people are so silly, I always knew. And then up ahead, you meet that and you realize that person was actually mentioning something, and that is prophecy, saying something that you will meet in the future, and you only learn because you adhere, and that is how you get respect. Okay, that is why in these circles, in spiritual circles, you realize that you can take nothing for granted. It's like that story of the rich man with Lazarus, could not give Lazarus food because he is so poor, he's so undignified. Why are you eating at my table? And Lazarus would just eat the scraps together with the dogs. And then this guy, the rich man dies, goes to hell. Lazarus dies, goes to heaven, and is comforted at the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man has this opportunity to look up and see Lazarus, and is like, send that guy, because he's still looking down upon him. Send that guy to go and tell my brothers that they must repent so that they don't come here where I am. And it's at that point that he realizes this guy was actually chosen to be in this position, in this lowly position, to test people like us who had the means. I could have protected, fed, bathed, clothed this person. I could have afforded it, but I did not, and now I land here. But still, he looks at him as a servant. Since he reached this privileged place, then even there, he must be a servant who can be sent back to tell the brothers not to do the same thing that I did, yeah? There's a beautiful girl that sang a Swahili song. It just came to my mind. And of course, I will sing. Have we met? Oi, mtu tajiri alilia, Abrahamu tuma Lazaro kwa dunia, akawaambie ndugu zangu wale vichwa kubwa, wasiishi maisha ovyo, kwani jehanamu nimeshaiona kuna. Anyway, that means the rich man said about Lazarus, please send him back to the world to go tell my brothers, kawambie ndugu zangu, they shouldn't live carelessly because they will lose their lives. And he is told, no, there's no more of this. Yeah, they still have a chance while they are in the earth. They still have a chance to do better. That is what happens when you're connected to a person and then they leave, they're separated from you. Where you remain is actually a chance to learn. But we make the mistake of looking too long at the person that just left, and we are like, despite everything that you hear, oh, when they go abroad, it is so cold there, the weather is so bad, some are even returning, but you don't care about what people say. You're like, how could that person go to that place? It's the same thing. The rich man realized he can't leave hell. But how did Lazarus make it there? Can you send him back? Still bossy, still had, stiff naked, did not learn. Okay, so in the journey, God relocates the chosen one to teach them, yeah? Some learn a very difficult journey. I always say, it seemed that my husband had it easy. I had to learn later. But also, the journey that God took me through, both the waiting and the coming to this abroad and realizing how difficult they have it. And immediately I just realized I couldn't take things for granted. I was down for whatever, errand. If you send me back to Canada, I will go and work. I will do 3 jobs, right? Just to raise this money, because I suddenly, I see, I understand how crazy this place is. I have to work together with you. I also understand where I'm coming from, so I have to work hard and take care of those people too. And it seems at some point they still have a chance to hear, what is happening up there. Can these people actually do as much as we expect them to do? Because others have done it, but not for this particular families. For afflicted families, you have to learn. Okay, when people don't learn, they miss out on time and seasons. Just like the people, the slaves, God kept his word. God will always keep his word. He raised Moses all those times for 40 years. These people are working and crying. And yet when the Savior comes, they don't recognize him. They're like, please, you won't kill us like you killed the slave master. And God is like, oh, so you don't think this guy can lead you? No, he is soft. He's a prince. Okay, I'll go make him a shepherd for another 40 years. I bet you guys don't mind. And so they had to wait. So God relocates someone to teach them, yeah. And you see that happening with Moses, even though he grew up like an orphan, essentially, a strange mom, a borrowed biological mother cannot be his mother, doesn't have the legality. So there was that trauma. Those are called mother wounds. For people who have been born and didn't grow up next to their mother, where there's natural nurturance, some people have said, I would rather have been raised by a poor mother rather than her giving me up to be raised by people she thought were able. Now I don't know my mother. I need to know my mother. There's that nurturance you need from your own parent, yeah? And because you miss it, no matter what privilege you get, you're like, I still needed my mother, because my mother could not be there for me, couldn't suffer with me, couldn't sacrifice with me. Be gone. I do not want you here, when it's convenient for you to be around me, because this is a thing I don't know. I cannot start, forming a relationship now. And you know what I find funny? There's no space or time. Everybody is so set on, now that I have older children, I realize they do not have time. Oh my God, for me to talk to them or to be with them in the way I think in my mind. There are some things I could have done when they were younger. It's over now. There are some things I may get to do when they're at this age. Yeah. If I say, no, I don't feel like doing that. Mom, do you want to come to a hike with us? No. Okay, you missed out on that opportunity. Pole, Uh, and it doesn't mean that we have to be in every place that we're invited, but everything for its moment. God is very intentional when he gives you a particular gift, yeah? There's a lady, and this is sad. There's a lady who had a child, and that child got into an accident and passed away. And when this lady requested to talk in her funeral, because when in grief, most parents are not expected to talk, and she said, I thank God that he gave me this gift to wrap it up for him in the time that I had them. That is deep gratitude, even in grief, yeah? So that is a person who has learned through the process. Number two, God reveals himself. I said the first is because we have no land of our own. He will take us where he wills, yeah? There are people who have the gift, the strength to own whatever they are given and dwell there. For the chosen one, it does come, but not before the journey, not before the sojourning. You have to sojourn. You have to go to different places and learn what he wants to reveal to you. The thing about being relocated and being moved to different places is that whatever you learn, you cannot forget, you can never be the same again once you've experienced that, yeah. And this does not even have to be relocation in different places. I had a friend who went to work to our neighboring country, Uganda, and he told me, you need to do this. If you never leave home and even go to a neighboring country, there's some things you will never know. Okay, so he must have learned just by going through or to a neighboring country. We see a lot of kids now traveling even by themselves all over Africa, discovering that, going to Europe. There used to be a thing with American kids whenever they graduated, because Europe is very hyped in America. So the kids would get this it would be sometimes be planned by their parents, but even the very poor would organize. After doing high school, they would do a tour of Europe. They used to call it backpacking, but for the very privileged, they would find a way, to get that what is it called, Schengen visa, go to Europe, and through different countries, by train, by flight, by road. It was awesome. While I was in Canada, I realized that they do these programs for high school kids where they send them to Orlando, and it's like a 2000, they pay about 2000, and it covers Disney and Orlando in general. A lot of kids later, and this started a long time ago, a lot of Canadians buy homes in Orlando just to have that experience of going to a warmer place without going to Africa, because there's they what do they say, there's savages there who could kill them. And oh, how about malaria? It will take you out. Why don't you cross the border and go over to Orlando? It's just a 5-hour flight. Why don't you do that? Why go to Africa? And then the ones who go to Africa are like, it's not what you think, you know. And they tried saying it, especially in the small towns of Canada. Nobody believes them, because how were you paid to say these things? I was in a church the other day, and they were speaking in very low tones, very with this new humility, and introducing World Vision. And they had this representative of the World Vision going over to Tanzania to help those poor people, because it's just so sad. And they gave examples of kids and their parents. The parents died from HIV and all. These children just have a mother who can't do anything. And this child before World Vision, and now this is this child after World Vision, and he looks like he has shoes which are clogs. uh, if as an African you don't travel and meet the different attitudes towards African people and Africa as a land, you will never know not to receive that kind of help. It's very undignifying. I'm sorry if I say this, and a lot of people have benefited from the help. It is mostly advertised here so that people can pay like a monthly fee to these organizations to take care of the children back in Africa, you know. And in doing that, let me just clarify my part. In saying this, I always feel like for each parent, yeah, it is an opportunity to raise your child. But if somebody else does it for you, there are things you will never understand, or you will feel like these people are saviors, and God came to me, came through for me through these people, which is it is something, yeah. But if you always get help to raise your children, then you will never do that particular journey with them. When your child levels up and they have to, and especially the children who come through some kind of organization and they arrive here only to find homeless people here and dragged out children, especially I see this a lot in Canada. I saw it a lot in Canada, and I had an old friend of mine, an old man who is a friend, telling me about the Canadian teenagers and how much they suffer, how much they're losing their lives through drug use and abuse. And look, you don't want to see a whole generation of people. Yeah, some are doing well, but there's a whole generation of drugged out, North American kids. And you seeing that as an African, and it was never told to you because you thought abroad is everything. You realize that the story they tell are for somebody's benefit. But anyway, it is a privilege to raise your own child. And not only is it a privilege to raise them so that they can give back, because that is a conditioning that a child must give back. But if you could raise your child and then inspire your grandchild, that is a real blessing. Okay? And a blessing doesn't have to be a lot of money. But how about the heritage you leave? My grandmother, I talk about her trauma and her being attacked for most of her life, being depressed. She left a great heritage. And on top of that, she left a property. That is a flex. That despite everything, despite all the demons in hell coming after her, despite the fact that when she got, she relocated, went to the city, got a property for herself, oh, the demons really came after her. And for most of my life, I just saw a very depressed woman. And there came a time where she didn't even talk. She decided to just close her mouth, and she never gave us the energy. She no longer gave us the energy through words. She just decided to be and wait for the end of her days. Looking back, this woman actually left an inheritance. And when you think about it, that is what the Bible describes. A good woman leaves an inheritance to his children's children, meaning it is their good, it is the good of their hearts that causes them to do a thing and to keep pursuing no matter what. If you don't pursue, if you don't, fight against everything that holds you back, no matter what, even if you have to do it crying. They say to is it Martin Luther? I had this example through somebody else, only to learn later, I think it's Martin Luther, that said, for you to reach your destiny or your goal, you must run. If you can't run, you must walk. If you can't walk, you must crawl, you know. But for what God has given you to do, you must do it, you know. You must do it. You must pursue. It looks different for everyone, but you must do it, okay? And at some point, and I find this with the fourth generation, we are talking about our mistakes. We are sharing so that, if anybody can hear and just do it, just make a different decision, you have helped someone. Anyway, I think I'm still on the second point, or approaching it. God does this to reveal himself. God does this to reveal himself. There's nothing that causes people to go back to him, especially the chosen people. The chosen people are a confused lot. As you have heard, they do not have a land. If you don't have a land, you don't have people. Nobody comes to the aid or support of these people. The chosen ones often make a very lonely journey through life, and woe be who is them when they don't when they are not wealthy, because some are wealthy and chosen, okay? But if you're chosen as a poor person, you already do not have a voice. We see Solomon talking a lot about this in Ecclesiastes, that the poor man's voice cannot be heard. Even if he has a solution to a case. Yeah, is that Ecclesiastes or Proverbs? Nobody is going to listen to this person, even if they help with wisdom. Even if their wisdom is used to help out in a case, he will soon be forgotten. People will forget that this poor man is the one who helped out to unravel this case. It is this poor man's wisdom. He will soon be forgotten. Okay? And no wonder Jesus came as a poor person, never carried anything of his own, depended on other people for food, and so in that way he was disregarded. The Pharisees could not give him an ear, because from what they had read, it was a king coming. A king was coming, not somebody who came in as a child and now is teaching all these strange things. And it's not the same as what is written in the scrolls, because looking at Moses, his law was direct. His law was clearly, the word just escaped me. Clearly stipulated is the word I was looking for. So from what they can see from the scrolls, no, this is not the Savior. And they could have lost their lives arguing that fact. But for every one of their words, for every one of their arguments, for every one of their observations, and even the gossip and the meditation in their hearts, Jesus was able to hear and see, and he would answer them. And even though it was so mind-boggling, they still thought, this guy who can see into our very hearts and minds, we are going to destroy him. That is what a lot of people do when they are sent somebody to convict them. Have you seen that in churches, where there's that poor person who cannot tithe, cannot give offering, needs help for their children and everything, and the church leaders are like, no, nope, I don't think so. Are you in the tithing book? Nope. So no, you have to give to be given. And some people will be sent into that church to raise a kitty for the poor, for the widow. And it will be like, no, No wonder Paul said that a widow who is still young and strong can marry again or can be taken care by those of his family. There's nothing you're getting from church leaders who are also looking for a breakthrough. We are looking for a person who can single-handedly build this church. I'm being so provocative right now. I'm sorry. But that is just how it is. It is very hard for the Pharisees to to reach down to the people. Do you remember in that instance where a Pharisee and a sinner were praying, and the sinner just goes down in humility and cries before God that, God, may you have mercy on me. He can't even look up because he feels so filthy in his sin. And the Pharisee, I believe, is praying, and he goes like, dear God, I fast and I give tithe and offering and I am holy. I'm unlike these sinners. And he couldn't see that God can see to his very heart, his very thoughts, his haughtiness, his self-righteousness, which is something we have to kill every day. There's something about accessing success, especially for a chosen one, if you've never had it, that makes you feel like every other person is silly. Why can't they do the same? Not knowing that God was trying you with that very thing. And that has been me sometimes, yeah? God was trying me with that very thing. And there's a time I was petitioning God, like, I saw you break other people through before me, and I didn't see them fall after, even after they were so proud, so obstinate. They had so much, they were so disdainful, and scornful. Why didn't you punish them? Because when I have called you to learn and then share. Share, you learn the hard way. Okay, so you rise and fall. And so you have to petition, can I rise again? If you call me righteous, can I rise once more? Am I on the eighth part yet? Eighth try? Have I fallen too much that I can't rise again? You have to appeal to God's mercy whenever you fall, because that will be many, many times. You will fall. You will appeal for God's mercy until there's no more shame in you. You will come to the public and talk about your failure, your failing, so that you can save somebody else. There's no glory in somebody else falling the same way you did. Because are you raising another to fail, or are you raising another generation that eventually comes to winning, to getting over the very same things that could have pulled you down, so we can move forward? If people keep falling, when will we ever move forward? And you have to recognize that this is the one time the underdog is being risen to overcome, to occupy the places they can, because they are honest people, they are of clean hearts. Do not mistake their failures for not having clean hearts, contrite hearts, yeah? These are the people who fall and they spend days, even months before God, seeking his face and crying so hard. And God sees the brokenness in them, their contriteness, and he's like, okay, you've passed that level. No sooner do they come to the next level than they are falling again. And they're like, did I do it again? I'm sorry. Tears again, until they are told, hey, rise. Now you're on another season, okay? You have to do the season. Even though you failed on day 3 of a new season, you have to do it because you already qualified for it, yeah? Until they die, they keep rising and falling and pleading. And when they're pleading, they plead for others too, because they realize if we keep doing this, we will not get there, and we have to get there. Imagine if the underdogs, and I say this to interchangeably with the chosen ones, yeah? If it is their time to reign and they come on, and they have to learn so fast, they have to be so steadfast. For the people God have been excelling, in their skills, because God expects you to sharpen your skills so much, so you serve before kings. Who are kings? Sometimes not godly men, but for you to raise these underdogs, these people who haven't been operating at the level they should. You have to have skills. You have to have perfect skills, yeah? You have to be skilled on a very high level. Imagine that example of David, yeah? He was so skilled. He was skilled enough to play the harp before a king who was both demon possessed and also the fast. Now you must know that the fast of a thing has not had it before, has no schooling, right? Has no preparation, is not prepared, you know. So they are very raw in their ruling, in their how they do things is very raw, you know. It's just by instinct. And what he was hearing perhaps from prophet Samuel, because a lot of times he had to ask guidance from the prophets, you know. But how to do things, how to rule his people, it has to be instinctive, you know. So that's why he could make decisions on his own, only to realize, oh my God, I should have been more submitted. So what do I do with this might when I should actually be down here? If I am here, these people may take advantage of me. That is a very confusing thing for people, especially who have come from poverty, people pleasing. Because you are in poverty, you wanted to make alliances with people who seemed to do better. And so you had to walk a certain way to fit in. And then you only realize that that was training. And then you come to a different place where you're told now you have to lead these people. How am I going to lead? People I'm even scared of, you know, because they seem high and mighty. So many compromises are made. It's very possible for a king to roll around like a pauper, you know, and that is a sin. That is something that is so ungodly. It's in the Bible somewhere. I think it is Solomon who was saying, I have seen a thing on earth that is detestable, of slaves riding on princes' donkeys. Some people, you know, no matter how lowly of a person or how humble in leadership, at some point you have to lead the people. You trying to act ordinary doesn't help them. You have to understand that your role calls you to come up higher so that people can listen to you. A lot of times people will not listen to you if you're not above in a way, above in knowledge, above in your expectations. You know, you have to be refined, right? And that comes out of, you know, owning that position so that you may learn what kings learn. Yeah. So anyway, this guy was so ordinary. I loved a movie where they depicted his ordinariness, and he was saying to someone, the character of him, of Saul, was saying to this guy, I don't know if it was the character of Samuel, like, how could I have done better when I was just a farmer? I'm just a farmer, you know. All I knew, all my soul uh, thirsted for was working in the land with the soil. How was I going to lead God's people, you know? And that takes a bit of training and humility before God. But if you roll with that humility, people will have their, you know, people will have their lines crossed. Sometimes when I try to work with younger people because I want to accommodate them, I find that they don't know the boundaries sometimes, and I'm like so scared because I realize I cannot take the disrespect sometimes, and yet you want to teach this person. And so the only way is to maybe use a platform, because talking one-on-one, where were you? Unalalalala hapa hivi na mimi nakungojea. That means, for those who don't understand Swahili, you're sleeping and I was waiting for you. And I'm like, first of all, how come you don't know about the time difference, you know? How come you know, and you realize you have to set boundaries, and that is very uncomfortable sometimes when when you came with a clean heart, trying to save the people you think God has given you charge on. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot to learn. Anyway, the point too was for God to reveal himself. A lot of times chosen people don't know that God is working with them, that they are blessed nations because they are so lowly in life. Yeah. And that has to change at some point. That is something God wants to change. You may be called to do your life a particular humble way, but at some point, like I'm saying, when God wants to change, you know, this for people, for chosen, you know, for his chosen to be ruling, He has to raise you in the eyes of people, because God does not see as man does. What men perceive as blessed and powerful is what, looks, what it looks like on earth, yeah, which is very, very different from what we see in heaven, in the heavenly realms. Even though, or spiritual realms, you see a poor man was able to occupy heaven very comfortably, the poor man in Lazarus, and lie on the bosom of Abraham. Okay, so which means this man has access, this poor man has access. But what I'm saying is that for the underdog, for the very lowly, who have been doing this life meekly, and then now at the stand, it is called change of God, when God is now giving the pure leadership roles and putting them in high places, and he still doesn't want them to compromise themselves, because a lot of times when people come to a position of power and they're so scared of losing it, so scared of running it, sometimes they may come in agreement with evil power, okay? But when God reveals himself in your journey, while you're still so lowly, and that is what the journey is about, when you see the majesty of God, and that he's not a magician, but he's a miracle worker. He makes the impossible things happen. Then with that revelation, you're going to live life very different, as opposed to a person who is lowly but wants power, has this ambition of gaining power, and they look around and realize, no, I have to make alliances with the powerful people. Have you seen what happens to sometimes to musicians, to powerful people? They make alliances with evil, yeah, to and these are talented people. So you wonder, why is your talent not enough? But they want the fame. They don't want to be talented and not sin, okay? So they may make agreements with evil. They may make covenants, yeah? Another word for agreement. They may make covenant with evil so that they are famous and remain famous. So they're not just trending for a season and then are forgotten. They want to be famous. They want in that time that they're famous to get money that endures, yeah? Only to realize that it doesn't go far. And while they got that, they made that covenant, they're going to lose so much more, including their lives, yeah? But now see people who God has raised himself and revealed himself in the journey, so much so that even when you come into your reigning season, if the God now is given to you to rule for a certain time as the blessed people of God, then you realize the majesty of God you saw. He's they say God is both the lion and the lamb. Yeah, you saw him as a lion, fierce in battle, fierce, against the enemies, and then soft as a lamb to accommodate you, even you in your sin, in your crookedness, in your poverty, in your being forgotten, that he's still that soft, yeah? And still as a shepherd to the lamb, that he's able to go for the lost one among the 100, among the 100. If he loses one, he's going to leave the 99 and go after that one. You saw him doing that. When you thought you were lost and forgotten, nobody cares about me, I should just lie down somewhere and die, or just depend on myself, or just live in this poverty, then, as we say, God remembers you. He hasn't forgotten, hadn't forgotten, This was just a season of you being in a particular place, sometimes lowly, sometimes God even remembers you when you're in high places, but acting so out of his character, and yet you are his own chosen one. He chose you, positioned you, and then you've been running amok. You're so in danger of misrepresenting him, He still remembers you. He still comes back to you. You're that one lost sheep, You could be, operating in high places and now even sinning. He remembers you. He comes and gets you, knocks your head a few times to make sure you remember. That's why a shepherd has to have a staff, yeah? Knock some sense into you. Anyway, through that journey of you being relocated, he reveals himself in a way that even when you tell people, they don't understand. Yeah, you may tell it even to your family, but some also will witness it and live, as a testifier. What are they called? Witness. Yeah, some will witness and say, oh, that person, that is God's person, that is God's own. They did not bribe, they did not lie, they do not have tall relatives. God came through for them, and some will talk about the period they saw. Some will do you know God will put some people somewhere watching you for years on end until that breakthrough happens. And let me tell you, sometimes when a chosen one is blessed, they may look back at those people like, these people, they were just watching me and didn't go anywhere. Do you know that was their assignment? To watch you so they can be witnesses. What is a witness? Somebody who stands and who witnesses something as it happens, yeah? So you may be scornful and be like, these people are not smart. They were just sitting there watching. And I broke through. I used to say that about some people who are watching me over the 7 years because it was so embarrassing for me to keep losing, to keep being denied a visa. But there were people there who would know every time I was applying, every time I was denied. And I was like, oh, now you see. Yeah, yeah. In my mind, I'm like, now you see. My God did not fail. Only to realize, my God, that was their assignment, to watch. And now they get elevated and you wonder how. They did their job. They were witnesses, yeah? The Bible says, since you're surrounded by a great crowd of witnesses, you must run your race well, I think it says. You understand? So God reveals himself in the journey. It is by relocating you that you will see the hand of God. Had you remained in the place that you are, going through whatever you're going through, you wouldn't have talked about God's might. And he is mighty. Oh my God. Oh my God. If you ever hear the voice of God and while you're on the other side, you will never forget that you experienced that. Even when words fail you to explain or to say, that God came through, that you heard God, and you'll never forget how many times you heard him. You'll never forget how many times, he spoke to you even in dreams, when something happened and he gave you a ready answer in a dream or in a vision, because sometimes he doesn't wait. Sometimes you're in danger, or you're wondering about something, or a time has come for him to reveal something. You will never forget. You'll never even forget the dates. And because sometimes it happens as a pattern, he establishes what he was telling you. So he reveals himself in the journey. Number 3, to teach you. There are things the Holy Spirit is going to teach you in the journey. If you guys were able to see like this segment of me teaching about the altars that you were fighting, there were some strange things I was saying in the moment, yeah. And I realized that, in that moment, God was, speaking through me. I was just, because some things I had never had, never considered until those moments I'm writing, especially the things I was writing on the whiteboard. And God was using an example, and I was like, oh my God, why are you making my family the subject, the subject to be studied in this time? And in this season, one of the things that he was doing, and the breakthrough, is that he was showing me my family and how he would bless each unit, what plans he had for each unit, that my family is going to be blessed and restored, because God is not naughty. Whenever he uses people, he blesses them. Yeah, so watch. Watch. If my family members are listening to this, they will see what God does, and that while he lets them be used like that, he's going to restore and reward. So yeah, that is God pulling up a chosen family, because for a long time they were afflicted. Yeah, those who have made a new covenant with him will be elevated. Those who have partnered with evil, they have to learn through the journey. It's not that you cannot be restored, because if you cry out to God, he is faithful. You're not condemned forever. You can come back. You can come running. Come running to the mercy seat. I do know for sure, because I have lived that journey. I know for sure that running to the mercy seat gets you there every time. Every time. God is merciful and he judges with love. And no, he does yeah, it's judging. He judges with love and justice. Whenever he's judging you, he's considering love, you know. And that is why you shouldn't turn away. You shouldn't give up, you know, because no matter what you've done, God will first look at you as his child with mercy. He doesn't just judge like he doesn't judge to condemn. He judges you with mercy, and he trains you through it, you know, with mercy and justice. So egotomera kehoto na wendo. He uses justice, like he uses is justice the same as kehoto? If any Kikuyu is listening, please feel free, even if you're watching later, to put that in the comments. Is justice kehoto, or kehoto is conviction? I don't know. But yeah, he uses both love. So he will stand on the truth. He will not say, oh, my child did not sin. He will not deny. He's not using lies. Ati, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. He's not using defense. He's not defending himself against what is accused, or what you're accused of, you know. So he's using legality, that yes, and agreeing that yes, he's not shying away from the truth. He agrees, yes, my child failed, okay, but he loves you enough to defend you. So he will stand there. And you see, the way we say Jesus has carried all our sins, you know, but by accepting him, now he takes over your sin as his. He takes over your curses as his, okay? But that is a process, or it's a court case. So he will stand there and judge by mercy and truth, you know, or defend you. Jesus is the defender. So he says, because have carried, they have brought their sins for me to carry. I have carried them, you know. They have brought their shortcomings and all of that. And through mercy, will he use his love to... I hope I'm making that clear. I know you guys get it. Yeah, so the Lord takes you through a relocation to teach you. There's no leaving home to another location without learning. Guys, when you're sitting in a car or an airplane, don't you take photos? Don't you like I like the example of a plane, because once you're there, I never even used to understand until one time I was flying from Orlando back to Canada, and I saw the plane. I'd flown from Africa, so I really should tell this story better. But anyway, when you're leaving Orlando to Canada, I saw that happen only there, you know. I noticed, or maybe I noticed more then. I noticed not only did once the plane got into the sky, pierced the sky, it kind of turned in a way now to get the direction, and then it got, we are already in the sky, but it got now higher, to a higher altitude. That happens all the time. I'm just saying, this is one time I think God was speaking to me about it, because of course, to go from Africa to wherever, you do the same, yeah. So you get to a certain altitude, but this one got to a certain altitude, did a turn, and then got now to a higher at altitude. And just when I thought, oh my God, this is very high, it got to an even higher altitude. Now, though I say that, you know, from Orlando back to Canada, I think I don't know why that was so noticeable, because I realized also leaving St. John's going to Orlando. I'm so sorry about this segment. So we pierced the sky, and the land closed. The skies closed on me, you know. It was like smoke. And of course, the first clouds are smoky. Then we got to a higher altitude. Of course, we got to a higher altitude, and I was like, okay, now we are above the clouds. We can't go any higher. Then it was really raining, and I assumed that was the reason. I'm not even making any, anything clearer. But yeah, if you've flown a few times, you know that depending on where the plane is going, there's an altitude it has to reach to access. Yeah, but there's also an altitude they can fly, like a lower altitude. Don't quote me. I'm just saying these things. I But anyway, even if you're trying traveling by vehicle, is it just me? I'm always looking outside the window and noticing different things. So if I'm saying I'm going from here to Lowell, if you're not taking me to Lowell or you're using a different route, I will always know, because for me it is the landmarking, you know. And that is why I would tell you it is, I would feel different flying from St. John's to, say, Orlando, or from Moncton to Orlando. I would feel different. I saw different things, took different pictures from up the sky, and I would say, have you guys seen this? Is this a river? Is this the sea? You know, because I was seeing some grooves. Yeah, it's funny to me because it sounds so silly. Now, reason number 4 as to why God relocates you, and this is to give you a chance. Now I will say, chosen families, and this could be afflicted families. Do you know when somebody does witchcraft to you, what they're actually doing? They are both A, stealing your destiny, or exchanging your destiny, that in the same category. And 2, denying you of the things you could have gotten. That is what they're interfering with. God's blessings on you. So that if you could have gone so far, now you become limited. Okay? And that will continue happening as long as they put you to sleep and you're not aware of what is happening. Now, I have to say, a lot of the chosen ones I've seen being under duress or being held back or limited still had the ambition it took to get where they were supposed to go. Oh my God. And that is very sad. That saddens me so much, that somebody will wake up every day and they have this crazy drive to get to where, and they even have that picture. They have this drive and they will never get there. Sometimes it even seems like, things are changing. It's like they're almost getting there. Not getting there, my friend. Not getting there. And whenever they even try, the spiritual world communicates. These people can always watch you. Some even have mirrors to see what you're doing, And the chosen one is so innocent. They are asleep. That is part of the witchcraft process, especially black magic. It keeps you asleep. Oh my God, if I tell you that even a lot of wives are asleep in their actions, in what they say, in what they do, just so that they get to lose. Because the one thing about husbands, yeah, I don't know why I put this inside here, but also marriage is a journey. The one thing about husbands is that they are so good. If you are married, you already know. Men are so good. It's like a revelation in itself. Like, how is this person so good? And I shared a clip on Reverend Julian teaching that women are not naturally submissive, men are. And that men are not naturally loving, women are. And I say, oh my God, this is so true. So I shared it on my story, but you don't get to see the end where he explains. And somebody inboxed me and said, this is not correct teaching. And I was like, oh my God, I wish you only knew. And the person who messaged me is a man, which is a hilarity, because let me tell you, I don't know if it's my man, but I know even the men in my family are like this, yeah? Because there's a brother of mine who mostly raised my first child, because we were all living at home. Submissive. Oh, Baba, you'll give Mike milk and uji nini nini. I've left the flasks there. Doesn't care, doesn't mind. That is his child now. Very submissive. Try a woman. Or she left me a baby without a nappy, sijui nini nini, the pampers were not enough. Oh, what is that uji she made? Crazy. Women, we do not submit, not even to our men. If you tell a man, oh, please, today I'm feeling sick, could you cook? Oh, rushes and cooks. Men are like that. And it's a lot of men who are like that, except the ones you are reaching, those men who are called alphas, and people have the audacity to say that the men who are good in their families are beaters. That is a whole different discussion. But anyway, men, so submissive, they really listen and learn so much from the wife, you know. And then just when the wife has his whole attention and his whole love, she gets weird and very scared and starts to be very controlling, okay? And very loving, which is not what you're commanded to do. A lot of women, we are controlling because of fear, okay? And so you start thinking, oh my God, this man is so good. We were told to take care of our men, have food ready, run this home like a company, have everything going so well. But now he's doing all that even better than me. Oh, my friends compliment me about how great my man is. And you do not know it, but fear sets in. Now it becomes battle. Oh, you're acting so nice because you want so and so to see you. Oh, when the visitors came and you were all helpy. And this woman becomes so controlling and so toxic, you know? And then she tries to make it up for it by loving the man. This man does not understand this language from you. You're loving, yes, it's nice to be loved. It's nice to hear those words. But with all your love, he doesn't know what to do with it, you know? And that is why to you, it is a command because it is very difficult. It's something you have to train yourself, you know? And a lot of women only try to submit, which is very hard, and they don't know how to because this is skill. It has to take great skill to submit to someone so honestly and honestly that they will know this is true submission. You can't lie your way through. It has to be a process. It's a process of learning to a point where this man sees this woman really loves me because the way she respects and submits to me, she makes me feel very great, you know? And it will take a process for a man to love you because at first they will even love bomb you. It's what they expect, yeah? Loving, gifting, all of this. And then you become so crazy, so controlling, and their spirit knows this is not what I want. I'm okay losing this woman, you know? And through it all, he discovers you to be this great woman who is so sold out to the family. You want so much greatness to your family. He sees you fighting for the family. And my man is calling me. My God, I have to go, guys. I'll come back later to finish this, or I'll send him a message. I'm sorry. The king is calling. You guys, I have to interfere with this just a little. Just a little. I'm sorry. Oh, you're still there. That worked. Okay, so it doesn't come naturally for men to love, especially after they've seen your glory go down. You have a morning face. You do not have a routine. I mean, those things that they see that are so beautiful, whatever got him first is what now, you know, he keeps looking to see. Where is that girl? He has not experienced you as a mother, as a daughter-in-law. You are sometimes very combative with his mother, who is his whole world, you know, until you tone down. And it is a whole process. Sometimes it will take years before he sees, oh my God, the girl learned, you know, she came to understand my mother, you know, and my people. She managed through all their evil because at some point he's able to see the evil of his family and that you did not cave under it. And he now starts to see this woman who has endured, who has fought, you know. And at some point, because God is just, he allows him to go through a process of what you've gone through. And he realizes, I could not have done it. She may not have done it how I saw other people doing it from the outside, but me being in to come and recognize what this woman has done, amazing. I love her, you know. And this love now is one that has been tested. It's the First Corinthians love where it is, he doesn't care no more about, that is such bad English. He no longer cares about who sees him, you know, cleaning, cooking for his family. You know, he no longer cares about the children seeing him treating you nice, where he'll be like, everybody sit. I will take care of this. I will cook for mom. I'm going to pick mom, you know. He no longer, like, that shame is gone. With great love, you lose all shame. You don't worry about being and you see the Bible also talks about being submitted to each other. So that's how it begins, yeah? Even before it tells us to love one another. But love is the greatest command. So that this is what keeps us together in the first place. And then you realize you have to submit to each other, okay? So that submission will not be easy. But I do second that teaching. Submission is easier on the man, like comes more naturally to the man than to the woman. But you do not also want to see a man submitting time after time after time. If you forget what the command is for you to do, to submit, and you have him submit, there'll be a problem with that kind of setup, you know, because even our society has conditioned us different to submit, yeah. So in that regard, the society is very biblical. But there's such great reward, not just from the man, but from God too, to submit, yeah? So, yeah, afflicted families, you know nothing about this, but God gives you a chance. It is in the journey, like I said. If you see people who have gone through tough things, only to just change themselves and learn, you know, even worldly things, because nobody taught you these things. For afflicted family, my God, kids, children, babies are put to work. They don't get a chance to be children. They don't know what it is like to be a child. So even submission, like, oh, I can just sit here and be. Do you see the correlation? Like, if you are never a child, how can you be childlike when it is called upon you to be submitted, yeah? To have a good heart. A lot of people are thought to have bad hearts, to be rough and aggressive, only because they are very hurt, you know. But the core of them, there's a good person inside. But this child has been so afflicted. That is what the devil intended for you to happen to you, yeah. Through all these afflictions, through all this hurt. Remember when you were a child. And I remember playing Jackie Valeska's music, and one of my sons would sing it in the most odd times. The song would go like, take me back to you, to the way that I once knew. As a little child, silently the voice of God spoke over me. Something like that. But it was like he felt so childlike in those moments listening to that song. But what I'm saying is, God is able to restore you to that childlike person, to that childlike place. Before, you were afflicted and you were so roughed up, you thought you have to be so masculine and tough in this world, especially for the women. The women who have been most afflicted and they had to power through, they're not soft, they're not easy to deal with, yeah. And of course we see those type of women like Deborah, great leader. Women are not always called to be soft, but there's a nurturing that is natural to a woman, is a blessing upon a woman. But say you don't have that, and you're not, and it's all because you're a leader or something, or you became so great, yeah, in a certain sector. But anyway, say you're an afflicted wife and you think that you have to be so rough all the time and tough all the time because you had to fight people. To even just keep your family, you had to fight people. To get your daily bread, you had to fight people. to have cohesion in the family, even to have some financial means, you had to fight people. So it becomes so tough, yeah. But it is in the journey that God is able to restore you. So why he will even relocate you when it comes to that, because I have seen 2 points in our family. The relocation that happened to my grandmother. She left the country to come to the city. And one thing I learned, along the way, is that there was so much affliction where she came from, so much witchcraft, so much, and it fell squarely on her, so much that she lost her husband, and she had to raise her children on her own, didn't have finances, felt like she had to go away and look for greener pastures, and then her children following her, and she has to raise them through that change. People who are raising children abroad will tell you how crazy it is to relocate children from one place to another, and then suddenly the children have their eyes open to a new world, and as much as their children, they feel like they have to get with the program. Yeah, it takes a lot of change, and the children, you may not know, but they are fighting things that you do not know of, and also they are fighting spiritual warfare that you don't know, because in the new place there's new spiritual rules and new spiritual levels, to which if they have to if they have to settle in that land, they have to understand and fight battle in order to settle. What do they say? The violence take it, and they take it by force. For your child to occupy a land and thrive in it, they have had to be violent. You didn't see it because it was a spiritual battle. Think about the kids who come even from a country like Kenya where we speak English, and they come to a class here where there's English of the nose. You don't think your child will have to battle to even be able to communicate, because whatever they say, everybody's like, what? What did you say? And you're like, I'm speaking English. And as Kenyans, we say that we don't have an accent. But suddenly nobody can hear you, which is so funny, because people, other nationalities with their different accents, can be heard clearly. I used to work with the Syrian. I couldn't hear the Syrian. The white people could hear the Syrians. And they're like, what's wrong with you, Margaret? And I'm like, I can't hear. I can't hear. But they can hear them. They can hear the Syrian, but they can't hear the Kenyan. You're being taken through a process when that is happening. And then you have to stumble, all over your words. You even stammer because it is so difficult. It is a new ground. Now imagine your children. Some are even coming into their teenagehood, into their adolescence, and they have to be relocated. They have to battle. And their only battle, God is taking them through this because of their mission in life, yeah, for what he has called them into. But we are fighting them. We are like, oh, since you came here, you've changed. You will know me. I'm an African mom. You have to stay, keep the same values. Your child doesn't know what you're talking about, because they know they have to adjust into this life, and it is very difficult. Mercy, I beg you. We have to be so merciful to them. While where we come from, nobody is merciful. They're like, you're on a higher ground. And it's so hard for you. If you know it is hard for you, then you'll have mercy towards, that child who is having it very difficult. And then they have to power through. They have to, oh my God, the things that children do. Do you see the universities abroad coming to Africa to recruit? Do you think it's that easy for our children here? It's not. For them to get scholarship, especially when they come, when they were not born here, to work that hard to attain a grade where they can get a scholarship, or be great sportsmen where they can get a scholarship through that. Because if you came here afresh, where are you even getting money to pay for the universities here? You have to threaten our kids a lot. You have to perform to get a scholarship. I heard the story of the lady who became as a representative, that Minnesota lady, Kisii lady. And she was telling a story where, I think she was doing it on Lingugi. The father, who never cooks, put their green card. When he got the green cards for the family, he made sandwiches and put the green card in the sandwich. And then he was like, there's your ticket for pursuing the American dream. Do not ask me for anything. This is the inheritance I've given you. And that, my friend, is very valid, because not only are you struggling, your child is struggling too. Who is going to give their other an inheritance? You cannot claim one from this child you see struggling just to get that scholarship to spare you from paying. At the same time, you are working so hard. Where you getting, for most regular people, there are people who made it big here. They have moolah. But for you, regular person, where you getting an inheritance except the goodwill, except the green card, I was so amused by that story, and yet it hit me so hard. And I felt like that man had gone through so much, for him to cook that day and gift them the green cards. Man, the person in the family who gets the others such a thing, like a green card or a citizenship, whatever, even a visa, any type of visa, my God, that person needs to be honored and remembered and be told thank you constantly. Because if that person is forgotten and abused, I don't know, God himself will judge you, you know. That is something I have to keep remembering, because there are people who sacrifice greatly to make sure that the people they are connected to, the people that God called them for, even have those papers. We think it's easy. Oh my God, we think, oh, you came here ahead of me, and now because you gave me a green card, you can't let me breathe. I don't know what. Don't put them in that place. Don't let them ever come to that place where they are so bitter that they are like, I wish I could have given it to a stranger, you know. Anyway, to give you a chance, there's a chance that only God can give you through relocation, because you will not get it from any other person. You will not get it from, like, you don't have a chance until God relocates you to a different place and gives you this as your land and gives you this as your blessing for the time he will have you there. You have this blessing. It's like a ticket. Yeah, it's like a meal ticket. I've given you this. I have taken you through the journey. I have taught you, because these things that God teaches you in the journey, nobody can. Even I can't do that. Yeah. Maybe God will put you under my voice so that you may borrow just one thing, just one, and then you will get to understand your journey better. And then once he gets you to that place, he tells you, now this is what I'm giving you. Now work. Because there's no time God is going to give you things that you don't understand how you got, you know. Yeah, you may get a lot of money, but you will understand where it came from. And that money still is a ticket, yeah. And you have to be a good custodian. Make sure that it endures. Whatever God gives you as a gift, you must make sure it endures. You see how Joseph did, made sure that the grain they grew in 7 years was stocked so well that it endured until the famine was over. So 7 years and then some, until they were able to grow more grain that they could have in the storehouses. That is good custodianship. That is good management. Nobody taught this guy how to manage. Maybe it's what, like we say, growing up in your mother's skirt. He grew up close to the dad. Maybe that is what he learned. I don't know. But to be a good custodian, just like my grandma was, that she was able to leave an inheritance despite the trauma in her, my God, you know, some people will go through the worst trauma and still leave an inheritance. That makes you a good man. It's not that you won't suffer. People don't do things because they had it easy. They suffered through it, and they, with a good heart, understood that they will not be here forever and left a thing, you know. And that could just be a good a good heritage, a good name, you know, a good example, you know, because the chains that you break, your children will not have to break. They will just soar, you know, and into the next thing. Whatever they break, their children won't have to. And so you will see, you'll see generations of privileged people who someone paid a price for, so they can rest easy. If you do the right thing, they will rest easy. Yeah, if if that wealthy man from that Lazarus story had done the right thing, he could have rested easy, right? If he and his brothers had done the right thing, they could rest easy. He could rest easy. If his brothers were doing the right thing, he could rest easy. But they did not, and they were not, and that is why he was disturbed. He couldn't rest. But Lazarus could rest. He had paid the price. I hope you see the correlation. I am a storyteller, and I'm also originally a writer. That is why I talk like this. I can go on and connect things that you have no idea. You will beg for clarity. It might not come, because at the time I'm talking to you, I will remember a song or a story and I will go with it. Number 5, to raise a new generation far from old. And when I don't want you to see this, because I want to put it very humbly. I can tell you, having done this journey and my children having come here young, they are not even the generation that gets to really benefit, right? But they do seem like they're privileged in that regard. Sasa nimeona yeah, so in that regard they do seem privileged, and the ones who remain behind seem unprivileged. But like I've been explaining about the journey, somebody has to pioneer. Now, one thing that you may have noticed about the pioneers is that they will do a very hard journey and may not get a similar reward as the ones who come after, And those who come after could be through the people who do the journey, or could be the ones that are coming after them, right? Following in their footsteps to the new place, to the new location. And while all this, maybe it's an open door or open heaven for all of these who are coming, maybe in the same generation, in the same time, or even different generation. But I do hope you see what I mean by that generation that comes at that period, and maybe it will be their children that get to benefit and get a new beginning, in that they do not have the old memory. For some people, it's very necessary, according to God, that they get the old memories, that they have that background, that foundation, so that they will recognize and realize that God took us from here and did a new foundation for us and gave us these new chances. So they will be so cognizant of that new chance, and it is given to them it is given for them to see the journey and be able to relate that we came from here where we did not have enough, and now we're in this location where we have a chance. And so they pursue that chance, and in that pursuance is where God is doing a new foundation, okay? Because all these things are very practical. So God gives them a new foundation. It is new because it is not beginning. But the ones, let's say, who come, like, for example, through my children, let's say their children, they have a new foundation. If they are born, like, let's say, in the new land that God gives us, okay? If they are born here, then their foundation begins from here, okay? And that is the chance they get to have a foundation in a place that God has given them. You do realize that this ground could change, right? It could change, especially in the season we are in right now. It could change, right? We could run away. We could go to another place and be on our way begging God, make a way for us or give us another land, But all I'm saying is that in that oh, okay. What I'm saying is, and I was trying to give it's so difficult to talk when somebody is listening, but anyway, they get to see this later. All I'm saying is, I'm using the example to say, so for example, right? My grandmother relocated from the rural area, came with her daughters to the city, okay? The foundation that we had growing up in the city, the opportunities, the differences were so much more, okay? So like my mother has that memory of being in the country, and then now has an experience of a journey, okay, to the city. And so for us, we have no, we may know our roots in the rural, we may know where our people come from, but our foundation is in that city, yeah? And because God will never give you a fresh, a brand new earth or land, whatever is there, like all the blessings that pertains your life, God has already unleashed, God has already ordered, yeah? So whatever land we come into, maybe as we are growing, we made covenants, yeah? We came into agreements with some things that caused us to get into problems, yeah? Maybe us and even our forefathers and even the people who we came together still had thing, remember that thing, yeah? Remember Abraham, doing the journey, and they still had these traditions where Sarah could give him his maiden to lay with, yeah? They had those things where, like, he had no qualms giving out Sarah, yeah? Those are the sins we fall into, things that God is trying to break us from, but it's still the things we carry from that old country, right? Or from that old place we come from, okay? And so we see Abraham as the first generation, to live, is carrying all these things in him, yeah? He can easily do that. Maybe us, being born in Nairobi, with whatever is in our background, we could easily sin in a certain way. Let me give you an example of a sin we committed. We could easily bear children at home, we could easily get into early pregnancy, which means we had the sin of fornication in us. And now that goes even beyond being a sin, it becomes an iniquity, such that there's a pattern in this family. Despite grandma having been married very legally, everything done, there's dowry being given according to traditions and customs, but now she is afflicted. She's a legally married woman, right? Her family should continue in that manner, but she gets afflicted so much so that God has to relocate her. In this new place, there's no man. The man is given to as a gift to his girls, right? To his girls, to be a father, a custodian, to be able to take care of them. But because we have been afflicted, we have been hit, and only God is a witness that now, because this family has been hit like this, and they cannot undo this, I cannot undo this in this generation, because there's a legality that caused them to be afflicted. Remember, witchcraft doesn't just come. You don't just fall into sin. There's a legality that keeps drawing you, okay? Think old covenant, think the familiar spirits moving with you in this place, because life is spiritual, yeah? So anyway, there's no father who could maybe perhaps fought by enforcing law and discipline in this home, so that his girls get into early pregnancies, and whatever. And you would hope, oh my God, this has happened, we are going to go with it, yeah? Maybe grandma says, I'm going to raise my children and my grandchildren, give them a home, which is very honorable. My God, it takes a lot for somebody to do that, yeah? But the grandchildren come, there's no grandpa, there's no papa. So from whatever they see, two things could happen. We could make a decision. I will never, get a child out of wedlock. Another one will even say that, like I used to say that, yeah? You don't even know when you're falling. You will meet just the perfect person. Or God will let it happen because he's still hiding you. The way God does is because he has all knowledge. He knows the end from the beginning. The familiar spirits don't. The demons don't. So God will let it look like, it's the same. It's the same, thing happening. The familiar spirits will be so happy. Oh, the mother got a child out of wedlock. The daughter did too. Very well. While they're celebrating, God is undoing this thing, but through the generations. You see, he doesn't stop it then. But at the time of his remembrance, again I say he does not forget, but there's a time where his mercy or the legality now falls off, right? If God himself said, for 4 generations, you'll be facing these things because you turned away from me, you went into idol worship, then that time ends. Who is watching his word to perform it? God is. So now, even if the devil has, has legality, can still come and accuse, oh, the mother got a child out of wedlock, okay? So it is only right that she falls into the same trap, and I know I'm making this very complicated anyway, but say it happens, and then the Lord says, because he doesn't report to the devil, he establishes this is where it stops, okay? This is where it stops. Even though this guy, and the devil will try to report you like, oh, this girl has made the same mistake, okay? So she should be abandoned, she should be forgotten. That is all the legality he has, yeah? But you are suffering, the pain and the shame because you vowed not to do this. Why? Because you are in that place where you want different, okay? Because how it has been causing you pain and problems and shame, okay? Now God doesn't want this to keep repeating, because the end of that has come, and now there's legal basis. But for you, this will not be given to you free, but he will cause you, just the same way a witch, knowing that you're coming into a blessing, would go and petition and use all kind of legality for you to be brought down and afflicted and lose out even in your life. It's the same way God will cause you to have pain and cry out to him. The best example of this is the Israelites. When the time came, when that 400th year was nearing, the people were crying like never before. The punishment was harsher like never before. So they cried out to God. It's not that he wasn't hearing them all the other times, but he had already put in place that these people will stay here for 400 years. But at the end of this, we see him putting plans in place. At the 350th year, Moses is born. He's preparing that savior, okay? And the people are crying more than ever before because they are not aware the savior is among us, okay? Similarly, even in afflicted family, people are crying at that point more than ever before. I know for sure my mom was crying. I cannot do this on my own. This is hard. This is my mom is doing this to me. These guys are doing this to me. I don't want them, seems to come into agreement, but he's like, God, spare my children for what I have gone through, okay? So she's crying more than her mother cried, seeing the same things happen, because maybe the mother thought, okay, now this is good because I have company, because we know her to refuse for the daughters to get married. But up ahead, we see my mother doesn't mind us getting married. So maybe she's crying that we don't fall into the same trap as her. So she's pushing us forth with prayer, okay? And so the legality gets broken by what? Mercy, love, justice. God, you're making an agreement with God and coming out of those old covenants. If I had this in mind before, I would have drawn a better picture, but I hope you get me. But that is how God brings healing through the generation, yeah? Because the pain the pain you refuse to endure, that was endured by a previous generation, will actually push towards deliverance, okay? So you may have a revelation that your parent didn't have. Like in this case, maybe my mother knew she wants us to get married, okay? So maybe even her little things that we thought, this is pure punishment, like making us do housework and all of that, and believing that, a woman should be this way, was her way of preparing us, yeah? And for us, maybe we were like, this is so messed up. I either want to move out, which is something we did, or I want to get married, or if I get to marry, I want a peaceful thing. And like what my mother endured, because it sounds like it was so traumatic, I want a peaceful thing. So you act different. healing through the generation, God giving you knowledge and wisdom for which to petition, because it is an open mouth. It is a mouth that cries that God will answer. You know, God will still do things even without you asking him. But if you cry out, if you ask him for it, yeah, then it is so much more sweeter, because it shows you recognize. Yeah, you know where it pinches. So you're like, I don't want this, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be the same anymore. I'm so sorry if I didn't make that clear, but I was saying, not only like I give the example of Akina, my mom, now having old memories, but now being given a new foundation, okay? And us being born in that place, new memories, new place, right? Or what we would call our memories, our place, because we are born there, right? We do not know what suffering they talk about when they talk about waking up at 6 to go fetch coffee, harvest coffee, take it to the factories for it to be processed. We do not know that. What do we know? Being woken by grandma, grandma used to splash cold water in our faces. That is how she would wake us up, because she was angry and bitter and not as nurturing. That is our story. So, but we are born in a different place, new foundation, okay? And because now we are so afflicted, even us, because of what is running in this family, now God gives us a chance, right? Through relocation. And relocation for somebody like my sister would be moving out of home, right? And even though she may come here, still, that was her thing and my thing too. So at some point, even though we got our children in that place, we were like, no more, we are moving regardless. No matter what the devil has done, no matter what, trick is in play here, that we've gotten our kids in this same place, in this family home, we are vamoosing, right? And the struggle now is to stay away. If you've listened to my testimony, I used to struggle. I used to run away from my marriage, not because it wasn't loving. It was the one time I was challenged to go back home by somebody else. When it is you, you want to run and cause all sorts of drama. The one time I was challenged, like I was told, maybe the solution to your problems, to your husband not getting a job, is you going back home. And I was like, home where? Go where? I'm not going back. And I sat down and considered, and I was like, my God, home. There was no love at home. How can I go back there? And yet, when it wasn't somebody else telling me, that is the threat I was using. I will run. I will go back home. I wasn't chased, from home. The devil will fight you tooth and nail to make sure you go back to that place. Because how dare you? Who do you think you are? That shows us that the devil has no memo of what time it is. We are the ones who leave. So he's struggling so hard with all his demons to draw us back there. Okay? And so when we leave, right? When we leave, because we got our children from there, so we have, that's the same familiar spirits. We introduce our children to the same familiar spirits. My God, if you can escape, please escape. Because there are some things I have had to pray about, I have had to fight, that appear in the children that were born in that old house. There, the children have different struggles, not the same as those who are born in that same house, in that same family, okay? And seeing that 2 of my children were born in family homes, I see struggles that I had to break off. So guys, this thing is not funny. It seems so nice, like when our parents accept our pregnancies, help us, even take us to maternity, support us with our children. We're like, oh, my mom was so nice. You do not know, you guys, what is happening. Yeah, the devil has fought so hard to have you give birth in that home, to have you single, to have motherless and fatherless children, so that he can attack whenever, because you are not told about your strength as a mother, that you have, like when your children have a mother, there's so many things already that are broken off them. When your children have a father, so many things. Even if that man just sits behind a newspaper, and your children get to say, oh, I don't want to marry a man like that because he doesn't give us an attention. enough attention, doesn't give mom enough attention, chain broken. She's going to choose better because she saw that, yeah? But still, that man was there, that presence. TD Jakes said that a boy is so validated just to have the father there, to watch him shave a beard. He knows what a man looks like, just to be there. And sometimes a lot of people have their boundaries crossed and they think a man is a woman. Having raised 3 boys, I am telling you, even the sweetest, who I used to call when he was younger, I would say, baby, I need tomatoes. He knew that was his job, to chop tomatoes. Or he actually used to blend. He always knew that we would use 3 tomatoes, unless the size was bigger. There's a size I used to love. This kid is so brilliant. And so I used to notice that about this child. He has this knowledge, this natural knowledge. He knows how to do things, doesn't bug you. I see him wherever he goes. He naturally knows how to do things. And I saw that as a mother. So even when I'm told, I'm not shocked, When I'm told that your child is so wonderful in this, he already, like when he gets into a thing, he overdoes it. He's so natural at it, yeah? That's not the same for his brother and his other brother, So I'm saying, even when your children are so natural at some, what was I actually saying when I said that? Anyway, guys, I've done my 5 points and it's been a pleasure. I know it's not a lot of people on online, but I thank you for staying. You guys who stayed. But that is what God does with relocating the chosen ones. Because you did not compromise, He's going to make a way for you where there seems to be no way. Okay, so this is His doing. When God puts you in higher places, in places you can rule, lead, or thrive, puts you in a land where there's plenty, more than you used to have, where you can thrive. It is for all those reasons. To know Him, to see Him, to reveal Himself as the mighty one who loves you, okay? To teach you in ways you couldn't learn. That is what the Holy Spirit is doing in the journey. When you find people talking about the revelations they encountered, that was the Holy Spirit explaining, because of this, I did this, okay? Holy Spirit, does He refer to God as the Father? I don't know. Because of this, I did this, yeah? And that is why you have this. You will never occupy. You will never occupy a new land without the knowledge for it. The knowledge before and the knowledge now. If I told these things to my children, they are always like almost rolling their eyes like, why do we need to know that? And while they do that, I know they have their own knowledge that God has given them to occupy the land, okay? So this is for the one who is crossing, and why God is doing what He's doing. There's always this knowledge, even for the one who will see it later and be like, I encountered all those things. God is only bringing you to that knowledge at that particular time, so you can be like, yeah, I went through that, yeah. So there's not new knowledge. There's nothing new under the sun. Has it happened to you? It has happened to somebody else before you. You would wish you found the knowledge, but sometimes God separates you from the knowledge that is out there so He can teach you Himself, yeah. And that is why you end up making so many mistakes, and having to learn through Him, and to give you a chance and to raise a new generation. Okay, so I'll see you on the next one. God bless you and keep you, make His face shine upon you, and give you peace through your journey, because that's very important. Bye-bye.